Chapter 10. Mary. Though Mary enjoyed helping Mr. Brown, she couldn't believe he would trust her enough to run his store in his absence. No one had ever put that much faith or trust in her, and she wasn't sure how to handle it. Maybe Elizabeth would have some ideas when she returned. The bell over the door sounded, and Mary looked up from the shelf where she was restocking coffee. The customer was a young woman, much younger than Mary, but she didn't know if she was here to shop or hear about a dress.
"Good afternoon, Miss Miller. What can I do for you?" Mr. Brown asked.
"Actually, I'm here about a dress. Is Elizabeth around?" "She's not," Mary said, stepping into view. "But I'm her assistant, Mary Lockwood, and I can help you." The woman's eyebrows lifted. "Assistant? I didn't know she had an assistant." "It's a recent addition. I just arrived from Chicago and she gave me a job. I'm happy to take your measurements and show you some patterns." Mary pointed to the upstairs and waited for the woman to agree. The woman paused a moment before nodding and following Mary up the stairs. "So, you knew Elizabeth from Chicago?" she asked as they reached the top. Mary hesitated, unsure if the people here knew about Elizabeth's past in Chicago. "I did. We were friends while she was there, and when I heard how much she liked it out here, I decided to come join her. I didn't have anything keeping me in Chicago." "I see. And were you a seamstress there as well?" "No, I worked in the restaurant business, but I won't be doing the sewing anyway. I just take the measurements and help cut out patterns. Elizabeth does the rest." The woman's eyes lit up. "You worked in the restaurant business? Like a real sit-down restaurant?" Mary glanced at the woman, surprised at the eagerness in her face and voice. "I suppose it was sort of like that. Why?" The woman smiled. "I work at the cafe here. Well, it's not much of a cafe, but we try. My parents opened it about 5 years ago." "Oh, that's nice. I didn't know there was a cafe here." Mary stumbled over the words, hoping the woman would move on to another subject. If she kept asking questions, she was bound to figure out that Mary had worked in a saloon and not a reputable restaurant. "I've always dreamed of working in a real restaurant, though I'm not much of a cook. Did you have a lot of customers? Were you very busy?" "We stayed fairly busy," Mary said, hedging around the answer. "But enough about me. Do you know what kind of dress you would like, Miss Miller?" "Oh, please call me Sarah. Miss Miller makes me feel old." Her eyes widened, and her hand flew to her mouth. "Not that being old is a bad thing. I mean, I'm sure you've had a wonderful life." "Oh dear, I don't mean that you're old. I mean, you're clearly older than me, but not old. Mary smiled and held up a hand to stop the girl's rambling. "It's all right, Sarah. I am older than you, and I've lived a lot more life." She didn't add the word good because she wouldn't classify her life as good, at least not up until her arrival in Sage Creek. "But I think I still have a few more years, so how about you tell me what kind of dress you'd like?" "Oh, yes," Sarah said, the blush fading from her cheeks. "I almost forgot that's why I'm here. I want something fancy. This is about as fancy as I own." She waved her hand down her simple dress. "But I hear a group of suffragettes is expected to enter our town in the next week or so, and I need something to wear when I meet them." "Are you a suffragette as well?" Mary asked, as she grabbed the tape measure from the table. Sarah looked much younger than the few she'd met back in Chicago when she'd go out during the day or on her day off. Most of them wouldn't even talk to her, but a few had reached out to her to let her know she had rights. She hadn't believed they would accomplish what they claimed at the time, but she couldn't help hoping they did. Though she wasn't married, she knew firsthand how few options women had. Not yet, but I'm hoping they let me join. I'd even be willing to lead a chapter here in Sage Creek, though I'm sure there are women with much more experience than me. Like Mrs. Thompson, I suppose? Mary asked softly, as she wrapped the tape around Sarah's neck and then wrote the number on the order form. She couldn't read any of the words on the form yet, but Elizabeth had gone over the order of each measurement multiple times until Mary felt confident she would get them all in the right order. Sarah tensed. Bertha Thompson wants to lead a suffragette chapter? I don't know for sure, but she ordered 3 dresses from Elizabeth today and claimed at least one of them was for meeting the suffragettes and hosting tea for them, I think. Do you not like Mrs. Thompson? Sarah sighed. It isn't Christian to dislike people, but Mrs. Thompson definitely makes the job challenging. Yes, she did seem a bit... Mary paused as she searched for the right word. Particular. Sarah smiled and chuckled softly. Particular. That is a good word for it. She's particular about everything. Mary nodded and jotted down the measurements for the bust and the waist. So will you work with her anyway? She asked, as she bent down to get the measurement for length. I suppose, especially if I don't have a choice. I mean, the work they're doing is amazing, don't you think? Yes, I think so. You should join us, Sarah said, excitement threading her voice. Mary paused and looked up at her. Me? Yes, of course. You're new in town and it would give you a chance to meet many other women. Plus, you agree with what they're doing. Why wouldn't you want to join? Mary could think of several reasons, the main one being that she was trying to keep a low profile. If she was in a room with a bunch of other proper women, she would probably stick out like a sore thumb. Plus, she didn't know if Elizabeth would approve. While she worked for her, she needed to make sure she didn't do anything to embarrass Elizabeth. I'll think on it. Oh, good. And be sure to stop by the cafe sometime. I'm sure my mama would love to hear about the fancy restaurants back east and how she could make hers even better. I'll do my best, Mary said, through a tight smile, though she had no intention of doing any such thing. She finished the measurements and had Sarah write her name on the card before bidding her farewell and sinking down into the chair. How was she ever supposed to fit in if she was always worried about someone finding out about her past? Well, I have my work cut out for me, Elizabeth said when she returned to the shop a few hours later. That's good, though, right? Mary asked. Elizabeth chuckled. Oh, yes, it's definitely good, but it's going to keep me busy for sure. How was the first day working in the shop alone? It was okay. I helped Mr. Brown stock a bit, and then Sarah Miller came in and I took her measurements. Sarah Miller? What sort of dress did she want? Elizabeth asked in surprise. She wanted something fancier for when the suffragettes arrive in town. Are they really coming here? Elizabeth shrugged as she dropped the rest of the orders on the table. That's the word, though I honestly have no idea if it's true or not. The town council is supposed to meet soon about the railroad, so maybe Carl will know more then. Mary looked down at the floor, gathering the courage to ask the question burning in her mind. Do you think you'll join them if they come? I don't know, honestly. Why? Are you thinking about it? Mary lifted her eyes and nodded. I can't help thinking that if women had more rights, then maybe what happened to me in Chicago wouldn't happen to any other women. But I don't know if I should get involved. Because of your past? Elizabeth asked. Partly. I mean, I'm afraid the women will see I'm not like them the more involved I become. and I'm worried about it hurting your business if they find out. But also, who am I to help? I'm nobody." "That's not true," Elizabeth said, grabbing her hands. "You are somebody. You are a loved child of God. You have a job, possibly two if you keep helping Mr. Brown out." She smiled. "And you're renting a room of your own. Speaking of which, we better get back to the homestead and get your things. We want to make sure we're back at Mrs. Nelson's before sundown. She did not seem like she would budge on that sunset rule." "No, she did not," Mary agreed, though excited to get out of Elizabeth's living room and give them their space back. She was nervous about living with someone she didn't know at all.